this is Julie with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use a two-part epoxy glue. So this is what it looks like, and it comes in this double syringe. I'm going to open it up and show you how to use it, and in the process we're going to make a bracelet, which I've already started here. So this was a bracelet blank. It's a stretch bracelet, and these are Dazzle sugar stones. I think they look really pretty in there, so I thought it'd be a fun way of showing you how to use this two-part epoxy by making a bracelet. What you're going to need, you're going to need some type of covered work surface. I've got a piece of paper here. I have a plastic bag ready to go. You're going to want some paper towels on hand. If you are doing something such as this, where I've got a couple very smooth surfaces, we're going to want to rough them up a bit. I have a Vintaj file. You can also just use a rough emery board. So we'll want to do that. And then you're also going to need some gloves to use this. So before we actually open up the epoxy, I want to make sure that my bracelet sugar stones are ready to go. So I'm going to rough them up. To do that, I'm going to turn them upside down and just take my file. Now the reason you're doing this is you want to create a rough surface to help the epoxy really adhere to it, to be able to grab to it. So it's harder to create that bond with a super smooth surface. So we're just roughing up the back. So it might be a little bit hard to see on camera, but these are getting to be quite rough on the back by doing this. Okay, so the stones are ready to go. Now I need to prep the bracelet. So if you've worked with these stretch bracelets before, you know they're really easy to work with. The only thing is usually if you're gluing something, you have to glue one stone, keep it in the upright position, wait for it to cure, rotate, glue the next one, wait for it to cure, and so on. Well, I want to not do that. I want to be able to I did half the bracelet already. I want to be able to do the other half all at once. So I had this on my craft table. You could use whatever you have on hand. You can even fold a greeting card or something, so you just have something that's approximately this shape. And we're just going to take the bracelet and stretch it over it. So now we can lay it like this, and we can do all of our bezels on this side at once, and that's exactly what I did for this side. So that is now ready to go. All right, we're ready to open up our epoxy. So this has a mixing tray already built in if you want to use that, or you can just use a piece of cardboard or a plastic bag, something that's disposable. And we're going to open it up. Now all the instructions are on the back. So I do recommend, if you can, opening it so you try to keep the back intact versus ripping it. You'll notice it says it's a 5-minute handling time. That means you have 5 minutes to work with the epoxy once you've mixed it. It sets up in 8 to 10 minutes, and after an hour it is cured. And it's going to dry clear, and it works on a whole host of different surfaces. So let's go ahead and try to open this guy without hurting those back instructions. There we go. So now you'll have those to work with. You do have the little mixing tray if you want. We can use that. And then you've also got this label here, which does have some instructions, but the label does kind of slip off easily when you want to work with it. So there's a little mixing stick right here in between the two syringe kind of columns here. We want to remove that mixing stick. And I find you can just kind of take your pliers and poke it out and then grab it. Okay, so that's ready to go. Now you want to turn your nozzle so it's upright. We're not going to remove the cap yet, but we want these air bubbles to rise to the top. And to help that, we're just going to pull back on the plunger about 1/8 of an inch. Just ever so slightly. It's really hard. You're not going to be able to pull much of it, but we just want to wait for those guys to rise to the surface. And as they're doing that, I'm going to put on my gloves. Always work in a well-ventilated area and use gloves when you're working with this. It does have a pretty strong odor. I will definitely say that, so please make sure you work in a well-ventilated area. Okay, so after it's risen to the surface, you're gonna pull off the cap and you're just gonna go like that. You're gonna set this aside because you're gonna be putting it back on later. And then you're gonna turn it upside down. And I'm actually just gonna use this plastic bag instead of the mixing cup, and you're gonna press down both plungers evenly. And I've noticed, and that's why I wanted to do it on here first, to begin with, it seems like more of one comes out than the other just on that initial squirt. So now I'm gonna pull up the mixing cup. And now we're just gonna squeeze out equal amounts that we think we're gonna need. Remember, we have 5 minutes work time. And then when you wanna stop the flow, you pull back on the plunger. And that sucks it back in. And then you're gonna put your cap on. And I would recommend storing it upright if possible, just because this cap stays on, but it's not really a strong seal there. If you have any extra epoxy that dribbled onto your tip, you could just wipe it away with a paper towel before you put the cap on. Okay, so now we've got the epoxy and we're gonna mix the two parts together. Okay, I'm gonna take my bracelet blank, use my little mixing stick, and spread some onto the surface of the bezel. Now this is an adhesive. It is not a top coat resin. I know we have a lot of different products at Beadaholique. We have epoxy clays, we've got resins, and even some of our resins come in a 2-part syringe, such as this one. But this is for gluing things together to get them to stick together. It's not something you would use as a top coat. But it does create a really strong permanent bond. Okay. Now I'm going to take this mixing stick, now that I'm done with it, and just clean it off with the paper towel so I can use it again. Okay, now I want to see what pattern I had, so I left off with the darker one, so I'm going to use a light one. Set it down and press it into place. All right, just go ahead, make sure those are pressed into place. And then I will just let this dry. We've waited an hour and now our bracelet is fully cured. I want to show you what it looks like. I'm just going to slide it off of here. So here we see those pretty sugar stones set down into our bezel bracelet. And it's a really nice look and was very easy to make using the 2-part epoxy. If you want to make this project, we do carry the supplies for it, as well as a 2-part epoxy and many other jewelry supplies at Beadaholique.com.